There's a hardcore dedicated crowd that absolutely adore the 80s and early 90s era of racing games. I was weaned on these games as a kid growing up with ZX Spectrums and then Mega Drive and Master Systems. And I call these the motorway racers because every single game that you drive on in these always have you driving down a motorway, even though it's like a Grand Prix circuit or whatever it is that you do. Steel Racer aims to emulate all of this, and I would pitch this game as Horizon Chase Turbo meets Top Gear, but with a polished outrun style aesthetic, if that makes sense. Now, that's because you're driving down an endless road. You do have a horizon that is changing depending on the stage that you're in, and it all looks quite well polished and put together, but you are definitely going down a 2D environment because whenever you go into turn, you're just having the track in front of you kind of go meow meow to side, and you just have to cling on for dear life with your car. The main way how you do this is if you've got soft turns, you can still drive left and right and steer to choose your lane, and you'll need to do this to get around other cars. But occasionally you'll hit some very tight corners, and doing so to survive that, you've got two options. One, you can actually hit the brakes or lift off the accelerator to reduce your speed so that you don't veer off to the side of the track. Or you can also get to the very inside curve and try and hang it out because most of the corners will be over by the time you reach the edge of the other side of the circuit. And herein lies a mini quirk for Steel Racer for me. Quite often with difficulty in a game of this type, it's about making sure that you stay on the black stuff. But oddly, Steel Racer, you're able to drive through all of the scenery. So I drove through the trees, I drove through the barriers. The scrub of speed as you hit the grass is quite slow and small, and so actually staying on the black stuff is not nearly as much of a priority as it is to just avoid the other cars and don't hit them, because when you hit them you reduce all made down almost to like 50 mph, and then you've got the acceleration to get back up to full speed again, and that is more of a penalty than driving off the track. So I oddly found myself abusing that system by putting two wheels on the dirt just occasionally because that was easier to do than hit someone, or to let's just go around the outside of someone with a boost and then hit the outside like dirt, and I'd sometimes get around them and that would be okay. I feel like this needs to be fixed for Steel Racer because it does mean that the challenge of the game is much less than other racers like this, and I'd have to say that kind of low difficulty carries across the whole game. There's 50 tracks, they're varied enough, they're across 5 different aesthetics, although they do seem to repeat themselves from like a daytime to a evening-y dusk time setting of the same thing. But again, it's not around corners being tricky or like avoiding trees, tunnel walls, like signage on the road. It's just those 19 cars, and because they're not too dissimilar in terms of top speed from you, it's just planning your actions and making sure that you stay out of their lane. I didn't find this game particularly hard at all. I won every single race except for one where I forgot to upgrade my car, and that was in stage 3 where the performance of the other cars just takes a tiny step forward and then they have level top speed with you. And so yeah, so long as you drive around the track, pick up the nitros so that you can use them, and make sure that you spend your cash on your car upgrades and not paint shades because they don't add anything to your actual car whatsoever, you will breeze through Steel Racer, and you'll do so in about 3 hours to get through the 50 tracks. I have to say that whilst the game plays well, handles well, and has actually a really good selection of chiptune tracks, although I'd have liked a couple more tracks just to spread out the diversity of them. What's here is great. They're all rocking tracks, but it's just I would have liked 1 or 2 more of them. What I did find with Steel Racer is that its commitment to an old school gameplay loop felt like it ran thin too early in the experience because there was nothing else kind of going on to break up the monotony of just weaving my way casually to the front and then winning with a lap to go kind of thing. The other really odd thing is that this game has an inventory, and it's just displaying what upgrades you've bought on your car, as if there's supposed to be something else going on, but it never happened, so I don't really understand why that even existed. This also screams for 2-player local multiplayer. It doesn't exist. This is a single-player game only. But yeah, what's here, perfectly fine. I do think anyone that doesn't enjoy the retro aesthetic will get bored of this quite quickly. The rest of us that live for these types of retro experiences, just be aware that this is definitely on the easier, genteel level of this type of game, and if you know that going in, I think you'll still have a good time. Steel Racer comes out on the 20th of June, and it's available on Steam to add to your wish list now. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.